Hi and welcome everyone to today's presentation of Atvexa. My name is Stefan Knutsson. I'm an equity analyst here at ABG, and with me today I have Johan Schillerman, who is the CEO of Atvexa.
Thank you, Stefan. Glad to be here today. 30 years ago, the politicians in Sweden passed an important reform, which was called the skolpengen in Swedish, or the school coin, which was a way for to enable parents to send their child to any school they wanted in the nation, and that without having to pay any out-of-pocket tuition for it. And this was a very important reform that also opened up the possibility for private and public companies to own and operate schools, and also cater for the need to find different concepts for school, not just the regular municipality concept that had existed until now. So a big market opened up for private and public companies then to launch concepts and own schools, and concepts such as international schools, Montessori schools, Reggio Emilia schools, and sports concept schools. And this was a tremendous success. And today we see that 1/4 or 1 in 4 schools and preschools in the nation is run and operated and owned by a private or a public company. And nearly 400,000 students and children go there every day. So Atvexa is one of those schools. And we launched our business in 2009 in Sweden, and 10 years later we moved into Norway and Germany. And our vision for the children is to be able to create the best possible conditions for them to grow each and every day in our preschools and schools. And we believe strongly that in order to do so, we want to create a high-quality environment for them. And we also want to enable the people around them, the students, the pedagogues, the teachers, the headmasters and the principals, to be able to make decisions themselves. So a very decentralized leadership. We at Atvexa are active owners, so we work constantly to develop our preschools and schools. And we also believe in acquiring new businesses to join, new schools to join our group, because that's what we believe is one of the most important ways to continue to build our network. But we also have organic growth, of course, and believe in that. Our values are very, very important to us. We believe diversity is a strength. We welcome all children and all types of owners and schools into our family. We are very curious about ourselves and the future, and we want to emphasize curiosity among our children and staff as well. So that is one important value for us. And given the fact that we're working with public funding, we want to be very transparent and open with the money that we handle on behalf of the taxpayers. So transparency is key to us as well. And our fourth value is long-term, and the reason for that is that many of the children, they go to our schools for a long time. They might start at the age of 1 or 2 years and continue with us until they leave for the upper secondary school 10, 12, 13 years later. So long-term is key to us. Now, Atvexa is an international group. We have our operations in 3 countries. Sweden is our biggest market. Norway is our second biggest, and then Germany. All in all, we are nearly 200 preschools and schools now, with a little bit over 4,000 engaged employees and 16,000 students and children that come to our schools and preschools every day. If we look at the 3 countries we are in, we see that we have decided to cluster ourselves in various parts of each country. In Sweden, we are clustered around the big cities, so Stockholm and the surrounding suburbs, but also the Mälardalen Valley, and then coming down on the Swedish west coast and the south coast. In Norway, we are mainly focused around the Oslo region, but also in the south part of the country, along the west coast, and some scattered schools and preschools in the north of Norway. Germany is a bit different. Germany is, as you might know, divided into 16 different states or regions. And when we did our research, we realized that 3 of these states were favorable to create beneficial conditions for us to be successful. So we selected those 3 states as our focus areas, and that is Hamburg in the north, and then in the south, Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg. The last 6 years, we've had a fine growth, a CAGR of about 20%. And if you roll back since we started, the growth is even higher, around 30%. We've said now that going forward, we believe 15% is a reasonable level to grow in. So that's our aim for now. But looking back 6 years, the growth has been about 20%. The main tool for us to grow is, as I mentioned, acquisitions, but also new projects in new suburbs where schools are needed, where we build new schools together with real estate developers. And if we look at the number of acquisitions that we do, the last 6 years, we've done on average 8 acquisitions per year. And the last 3 years, it's been 10, so slightly increasing. We are very prudent when it comes to acquisitions. We believe that the company and the situation must be very fitting for us when we buy something. And we don't believe in too high profit margins. We've said that somewhere between 5 and 8% is a reasonable profit level for a school. If an acquisition target has a higher margin than that, we believe that has negative impact on the quality, which is so important for us. So in that case, we back away. So we're not willing to pay for extremely high margin schools. 5 to 8% is a good level for us. We're also very careful to pay too much. So we look at, of course, our own valuation and our own EBIT multiples, and make sure that there is an arbitrage when we buy. So right now we're looking at 4.5 times EBIT multiple when we buy schools and preschools. We are not interested in buying real estate and facilities. So if there is an acquisition that comes with a facility, we want to partner up with a real estate partner who can then acquire the real estate, and we set a favorable rental agreement with them, and then we buy the school. So it's always a 3-party deal with the seller, us, and the real estate partner. And acquisitions are our sort of favorable tool when it comes to Sweden and Norway. Germany is a bit different case, as I will come back to, because there's such a big need for new preschools in Germany. So their organic growth is more important to us. We are targeting a 5% EBIT margin, and in order to do so, we have to be very careful and conscious about our cost levels. So we are very controlling, if you will, of our cost levels. So we constantly monitor and follow up and benchmark among our different schools and preschools to make sure we are at a smart and good level for us. A normal school or preschool for us, if you look at the cost side, is about 70% employee and salaries costs. About 15% is rental costs, and then the rest is indirect costs such as IT, telephony, travel, coaching, training, advisory, and so on. And for that last part of the cost side, we are being smart. So we're using the buying power of the group as a whole to create favorable agreements for us when it comes to IT, telephony, and insurance and all those indirect costs. One important part for us is as well, of course, how satisfied and engaged our staff is, and how satisfied our parents are with our schools and preschools. Here, if we look at the preschools and start with the blue square, our focus is to make sure that our staff is engaged and happy with their workplace. And if we can achieve that, we know that they will do a very good and fine job in creating the best possible conditions for our children and students. So that will also make, of course, the parents to these children happy. And if we can make the parents happy, then of course they will recommend us to their friends and so on. So this is a self-reinforcing wheel, starting with the employees and then going via the parents and their recommendations. So this is very important for us, and we follow this regularly. We do annual surveys among all our entities every year to make sure that we are at a high level in all these three areas. If we move to the school side of us, it's the same approach there. We focus on our employees, make sure that they are happy, and we see that they are even happier here than in the preschool, on the preschool side. And if they are able to create a calm and a nice learning environment for our children, well, then they will have high merit points and high grades, and they will be able then to choose whichever upper secondary school they would like. So they would have then all liberty and freedom to choose whatever they would want. So it's very important for us to keep this self-reinforcing wheel going as well. And as you can see, we have very good numbers in both the preschool and the school side, so we're happy about that. Another evidence of the fact that quality and operations, a high quality of operations, is important to us is the result from the annual survey that the Swedish Schools Inspectorate, or Skolinspektionen, makes every year. This is the result from 2021 year survey, where they ask 50,000 children and students in grade 5 and 9 a number of questions in 10 and 14 different areas, 14 for the older children and 10 areas for the younger children. Where one important area is the learning environment. So are the children happy with the learning environment that they have in the schools? And as you can see, we perform extremely well in grade 5. We are much higher than the nation as a whole, and we're also higher compared to our colleagues in the private segment. So we're really happy to see this. And this is a result of strong and long work to be able to create this calm and silent environment in the schools and preschools for our students. If we then jump to the similar survey, but for the 9th graders, it's almost the same story. We are still stronger than the nation as a whole, and among top 3 then, or top 2 when we compare to our peers. The levels overall are a bit lower. As you can imagine, the teenagers are a bit rowdier group, so maybe a little bit higher level in the classrooms, but still it's good results, and we're happy to see that this is a good result for us. I've mentioned that acquisitions is our most important tool to grow, and then a reasonable question, I think, is: are there enough acquisition opportunities out there, and are they willing to talk to us? And the answer to both is yes, and I will start with the second question. So we are in a favorable position, I think. We get a lot of incoming requests from entrepreneurs and owners who have started up their business, and for one or the other reason wants to leave, either because of wear and tear, they've been building up their school or preschool for a long time, or they are just eager to become part of a bigger group. And that's exactly what they tell us after they've joined. Is the great thing about Atvexa is that, of course, I became part of a bigger group and was able to discuss and learn from peers, but also the fact that I now had no financial risk in what I was doing because Atvexa now took that risk. And I was also able to continue doing exactly what I've been doing with my school, because Atvexa didn't have any strong opinions on what the logo would look like or change of the concept or how we ran our business. So we got to do exactly what we had done, but with all these other benefits. Also, what is mentioned when we talk to schools who have joined us is the fact that their organization and their staff, and I then talk about the teachers and the principals and the headmasters and pedagogues, were able to join our networks and our networking meetings, where we put together subject matter groups in each theme, Swedish, English, math, for example, and they were able to share ideas on the latest developments of learning techniques and research, for example. So also for the organizations that came into us, this was a really good benefit and a strong benefit. We also have focused a lot on leadership development. It's something that is maybe not in focus when you're running your own school as a sole entity. You don't have time for that, basically. But with us, we offer board memberships in other schools, so you are able to share your experience and and your ideas and see if they can fly in another environment, which normally is very fun for them. And we also have our leadership academy for sort of the highest level of leadership in our schools. So around 50 people are then invited several times a year to different theme meetings. And it's really glad now that we can actually meet in person after the pandemic is gone, so we don't have to meet digital anymore. And then we also have our inspiration days for all people and employees in leadership positions in Atvexa. So around 150 to 200 people are meeting regularly to discuss relevant topics in all 3 countries. So that's also something that we focus on and offer as a benefit when you join our company. And what is also, I think, maybe the greatest part of all with Atvexa is that our journey has just begun. We've had an impressive growth so far. I mentioned CAGR of 20% the last 6 years, but the thing is that there's so much more to do. If we look at our market shares in each respective country, we know that in Germany we're hardly on the map. The need in Germany for preschool places is about 500,000 until 2030, so there's so much to do there. And we sent out the press release about 2 weeks ago that we're now launching 3 new schools and projects in Germany, in Hamburg and in Bavaria. And that is just the beginning. There's so much going on now in Germany after the pandemic, and the restrictions are gone or almost gone. So we're really focusing there as a growth area. In Norway, there's about 2,500 private barnehager or preschools. So there's a lot to do there as well. There's always a number of them that are in the process of finding a new haven or a harbor for themselves. So we have a lot of traction in Norway on the acquisition side. And in Sweden there are over 3,000 units, preschools and schools that are private, that are also at some point hopefully willing to sell to us. So there's a lot to do in all our 3 geographies. And that is why we are very confident when we talk about our 5-year targets. We are targeting a 4 billion SEK revenue in 5 years, which is about then 15% growth per year, which is a level we're comfortable at. We've been performing higher in the past, but going forward we see that 15% is a relevant level for us. We are very confident that the 5% profit margin level on EBIT adjusted for IFRS 16 is also good. We don't want to be more profitable than that, because then that affects quality, and it's important to us to have a high quality in operations, so 5% is good. We've set a financial gearing target of 2.5 net debt versus EBITDA, which is not a problem for us to keep. We're much lower than that now. We're below 0.5, so maybe a little bit too low. And we want to continue our growth journey on the earnings per share side as well, and keep an increasing EPS during this period as well. So all in all, I'm very much looking forward to the future. There's a lot to do, and we feel confident that these levels are where we will reach them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Johan. I would like to start off because you're a new CEO, you are new in this sector. So I would like to hear, what are your first impressions from Atvexa, and what are your previous experience that you think that you can benefit from in this role?
Yes, thank you, Stefan. Good question. I think that Atvexa is a very well-run company with a focus on the children and a focus on the quality. And especially in the business we're in, I think those are the 2 most important areas to focus on. Maybe with the addition of the employees, as I've mentioned in my presentation, that keeping our employees engaged will create all the other benefits that I mentioned. So a very well-run company, careful about handling taxpayers' money, making sure that we're doing well-thought-through acquisitions and selective organic growth projects as well, with a fantastic team and fantastic teachers and headmasters around these 3 countries. And regarding your second question, what I can contribute, I think that should probably be a question asked to my board, and I guess the jury is still out. But if you ask me, which you did, I think that my background from being in Stenbecksfärden in Kinnevik has taught me to see opportunities everywhere and act on them. So I think that's one part. My career so far has been very international. So I've been living in the US for many years. I've worked in a large share of the European countries, and I've been in one of my most recent jobs building campuses in 4 countries in Europe. One of them is Germany, and in Munich, in Bavaria. So I think that's a relevant experience as well.
Perfect. And that leads into my second question, because of the market opportunity that you have in Germany. We know that there is a huge supply gap because of a change in regulation a couple of years back. But what will Atvexa need to do in order to capitalize on this opportunity?
We have to continue to be careful. We see that on the acquisition side, which is not our most favorable way of growing in Germany, but we still are open to it. We see on the acquisition side that the multiples are a bit too high. So we are very careful about that and making sure that if we do an acquisition, it's really where we want it to be in terms of multiples and profits. So that's one thing. And the other thing is to be continuously working on our partnerships with real estate companies in all our 3 regions in Germany, because that will be a key for us to grow. If we have a strong relationship with them, they will come to us when they develop a new area or city region and ask us to become the school operator in that new project. So that will be 2 key things to consider going forward for us.
What are the average acquisition multiples that you see in Germany that you think is too high?
The average, we see multiples of 10 to 15 times EBIT, and we've seen even higher going back a few years. So that is way above what we think is a reasonable price for that type of school or preschool. So it's much higher than we see in Sweden and Norway, for example.
And do you foresee, when you grow in Germany, if you're successful with that, do you see that you need to reach a certain scale before you get profitable in that country, or how do you think you will approach?
Yeah, good question. We are so eager on Germany, so we're focusing a lot on that. And if we look at the units we have right now, and since 2019, they are profitable this year. But then, of course, we have a small overhead team, and taking that into consideration, we're maybe at break even now. So it will take some time before we are profitable as a whole. But given all the activities that we see right now and how active we are, it shouldn't take too long.
Perfect. And then if we turn our attention to Sweden, there has been a lot of focus on the political debate. The current government has a quite negative view on profits in the sector. What would you say is your take on the current political landscape, and what do you see for possible outcomes after the election this autumn?
The $1 million question. It's as you say, it's been a tough rhetoric, especially in the beginning of this year, in February, March, when even our prime minister was out talking about us in a very negative way, and if I might say so, a quite surprising way. She used words that I think are not fitting to a prime minister of Sweden, but the rhetoric was strong. Since then, the last 3 or 4 months, we haven't heard much. I think if we look at all the proposals that have been coming into the parliament, we are not too worried about most of them. But the one that worries us a little bit is the financing part, where they say that they will take away 8 to 10% perhaps of the financing for us. I'm not too worried that will happen. It's a lot of ideology and voter flesh now being talked about. So that happening, I don't really see happening. And if there would be a change in our financing, we are well spread out in most parts of the country, from Stockholm and south. So it wouldn't hit us that strong. We are well represented in blue and light blue municipalities, if you will, where we think the fall would be slightly lower, if any. But if we go back 35 years, my upper secondary school was about to be closed, and it never happened. So I think we have to be pragmatic about this and see what's happening. And we're not speculating in that. We're focusing on what we do. We're building our company strong, focus on quality, and continue our growth. And then the politicians will do what they think is best, and we'll have to handle it when it happens.
Do you put any extra effort in trying to understand how the politicians are acting now up until the election, or do you just focus on your core business?
No, we are building relationships with politicians, especially the ones that are spokespersons for the school area. So we are inviting them to study visits to our schools, so that they can see with their own eyes how we work and how great our operations are. So I would say mostly those people that are working with those questions in the different parliament parties, we're building a relationship to. And then, of course, we have in our schools, they have daily contacts almost with the municipality politicians in their respective municipalities. So there we have very strong relationships. And there it's a totally different discussion. There it's a much more pragmatic, solving the problem focus, rather than talking on when our national politicians talk on a national level, where it's much more ideology and voter fishing than it is on the municipality level. So.
Perfect. And then lastly, a question on capital allocation. We saw that you have grown very like clockwork and done several acquisitions every year. And we also heard you say that there are many opportunities out there. Yet the company has delevered quite a bit. You're almost at a debt-free level. Do you think that we will see, more of a mix of acquisitions, buybacks, dividends, or how will you approach the capital allocation question for Atvexa?
Well, I think that in the end is a question for the board. In our discussions, we still see that acquisitions is our main use of this money, and given the fact that Germany is a focus area for us right now, I would prefer, but it's not my decision, to continue to invest in Germany and make sure that we meet not only the acquisition but also the projects that are a bit more long term for us, and make sure that we can make those happen. So when it comes to all the other questions that you mentioned, they are very relevant: dividends, share buybacks, and so on. But it's not my decision, my comment. So I pass on that.
Yeah, okay. But let's just talk a little bit more about acquisitions then, because
Sure.
we have seen, valuations go down in the sector because of this political debate. Do you think that is the core reason why the acquisition pace has also decreased, or is there some other explanation?
I think that is the key reason. So if you're working and have built up a small school, maybe you're not following the stock price of us or one of our competitors. So maybe you still think that you will get a higher price for your business. So we see that in the discussion we're coming in at different levels. So it takes a little bit of time to reach each other there. So I think that's the main reason that we've been dropping quite significantly on the stock market the last 6 months, and the owners of smaller schools have not really followed that. So that takes some more time and makes the processes longer. But they're not saying that they won't sell. It's just that we have to find each other in the discussions.
Very well. Thank you very much, Johan, for coming and presenting with us at ABG here today.
Thank you, Stefan. Thanks for having me.